San Antonio is the fastest growing city in America, and our population is expected to double in the next decade.
But we're also one of the top cities for income segregation. That is, families living in southwestern San Antonio earn less than half the income of families living on the north side.
Eyewitness News reporter Vanessa Croix explains how understanding the poverty rate is a way to move toward changing it.
Well, one of the goals of the SA 2020 Impact Report is to tell San Antonio's story. And part of that story is looking at the challenges that we face as a city and to recognize that we're all accountable to spark change. But first, let's take a closer look at some of those challenges. 1 out of 6 people in San Antonio live in poverty. And San Antonio is the top city in America for income segregation. In District 5 on the city's west side, the average yearly income is around $13.6 thousand. But over in District 9 in the city's north side, the average is $40,000, a difference of more than $26,000 a year. But what could be some of the factors that contribute to the wealth gap? In District 5, 56% of the population have jobs and 33% are below the poverty line. In District 9, 74% are employed and 8% are living below the poverty line. Well, SA 2020 has the goal of reducing the poverty rate and narrowing the wealth gap. But how do you do all that? Well, here's the good news: by seeing positive results in other areas. High school graduation rates have increased, unemployment rates have stayed low, and teen pregnancy has also gone down. But we still have a lot of work to do, and that's where the SA 2020 community partners come in. Organizations like the Boys and Girls Club, Habitat for Humanity, and Family Service help connect neighbors across income lines and work together to make the SA 2020 vision a reality. For now, Vanessa Croix, KENS 5 Eyewitness News.